Mic check. 1, 2. Are we recording? Hi, I'm Michelle Bernstein, an award-winning chef, restaurateur, and mom. I have a lot on my plate, including my psoriatic arthritis symptoms. That's why I was prescribed Cosentyx. It helps me move better.
Cosentyx secukinumab is prescribed for people 2 years of age and older with active psoriatic arthritis. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentyx. Before starting, get checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur, like tuberculosis or other serious bacterial, fungal, or viral infections. Some were fatal. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms like fevers, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, had a vaccine or plan to, or if inflammatory bowel disease symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions and severe eczema-like skin reactions may occur. Learn more at 1-844-COSENTYX or Cosentyx.com.
Ask your rheumatologist about Cosentyx.
Hey, business owners, we know you know the importance of maximizing every dollar. With the Delta SkyMiles Reserve Business American Express card, you can make your expenses work just as hard as you. From afternoon coffee runs to stocking office supplies and even team dinners, you can earn miles on all your business expenses. Plus, you can earn 110,000 bonus miles for a limited time through July 16th. The Delta SkyMiles Reserve Business Card. If you travel, you know. Minimum spending requirements and terms apply. Offer ends 7/16/25.
Welcome to the HCI family of podcasts. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We share our own original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. Join us for practitioner-oriented content around all things leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with the HCI family of podcasts. Jesan Sorrells, welcome to the conversation today.
Thank you for having me, John. I appreciate it.
It is a pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about the role of leadership development in a world of artificial intelligence. We need to continually develop ourselves and those around us. We need to be lifelong learners. The traditional ways of going about leadership development, have transitioned over time, but now we're in this whole new wild west of technological disruption and AI. So we're going to unpack what that means for leadership development, perhaps where we might be going in the next few years, next 5 years, etc. I think it'll be a fun conversation. As we get started, I wanted to share Jesan's bio with everybody. Jesan Sorrells is CEO and founder of HSCT Publishing. HSCT is remote first video-based software publishing platform company located in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. They seek to help organizations manage and reduce the impact of workplace conflict, encourage organizational innovation, and increase optimal outcomes around leadership development, conflict management, and change management. Now, I could go on, but I'm going to pause there. Jesan, anything you would like to highlight by way of your background or personal context or your company's background before we dive on in?
I'm very passionate about this topic, in particular, the ways in which our large language algorithms are going to mold and are going to reshape how we think about leadership and our approach to leading people. I'm so passionate about this that I've launched my own podcast, The Leadership Lessons from the Great Books, and we could talk a little bit about the role of the great books in this realm of leadership learning and artificial intelligence today as well.
Yeah, well, let's start there. So, it's interesting as we think about AI and generative AI. You have chatbots now where you can do real-time coaching, around sticky leadership issues, etc. But it's always a question of what's trained these AI, what's going on behind the scenes, what kind of biases exist within the outputs that are coming back to you. So that's part of the question. But I love this idea of focusing on the great books. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Running a business comes with a lot of what ifs, but luckily there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Make your next move with American Express Business Platinum. Enjoy complimentary access to the American Express Global Lounge Collection. And with a welcome offer of 150,000 points after you spend $20,000 on purchases on the card within your first 3 months of membership, your business can soar to new heights. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum. Amex Business Platinum. Built for business by American Express.
This episode is brought to you by Polestar. There's only one true way to experience the all-electric luxury SUV Polestar 3, and that's to take a test drive. It can go from 0 to 60 in as little as 4.8 seconds with the dynamic handling of a sports car. But to truly understand how it commands the road, you need to be behind the wheel. Up to 350 miles of range, the 3D surround sound system by Bowers & Wilkins. It's all something you have to experience to believe. So book your test drive for Polestar 3 today at polestar.com.
If you went on a road trip and you didn't stop for a Big Mac or drop a crispy fry between the car seats or use your McDonald's bag as a placemat, then that wasn't a road trip. It was just a really long drive. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
At participating McDonald's.
Right. So when you focus on the great books, or when you even think about the great books, leaders have to sort of define what great books actually means. Okay. And so when we think about great books, we often think about classics, things like Shakespeare, maybe, or the Bible, or Milton. And we've covered a lot of those on our podcast, don't get me wrong. But you also have to think about, what can you learn about emotional intelligence from Sense and Sensibility? What can we take about interpersonal human relationships from The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway? Yeah. These are books, these are ideas that have crystallized up from the bottom of human experience all the way to the top, the pinnacle of what we have here. It is, in essence, our great books, in essence, provide sort of the best of the best of the best overview of all of the algorithmic data we've been able to collate over the course of the entire human experience. And that's why they're valuable. When you look at these chatbots, when you look at this generative AI, what you are seeing is, yes, an aggregate of all the human knowledge of the last 40 years of the internet, but not all the human knowledge of all of humanity. And so the books that defy the algorithm are probably going to be the books that are going to allow us to be the most human in our leadership development. And that's why they are worth studying.
Yeah, absolutely. Super interesting. You gave a few examples, and I don't want to overly simplify what you just said, but I think whether we're talking about the great books or we're talking about art, literature, cinema, music, whatever the creative outlet may be, I think there's so much that can come from all these different types of artistic expression that we can gain, to help with leadership or a wide variety of other things in terms of our understanding of the human condition and how we relate to people and et cetera, that at least at this time, I don't feel like we're getting from AI. And I guess I guess it's the question, will we at some point? Can we at some point? But as of right now, I don't think we're there.
I would assert that we not only are we not there, but I'm going to be so bold as to go out on a limb and say, and there will be people who will listen to this podcast who are way smarter than I am in the fields of generative AI and, all the other different sort of ways you can divide up intelligence in an artificial realm. And please go ahead and send me the emails. Don't bother John. He's a nice guy. You send me those emails. I don't think we're ever going to get there. And the reason why is because computing power presents challenges. I just have started seeing articles now about the energy output for these large language algorithms. I once read in MIT Technology Review, this was probably back about 5 or 6 years ago, that what my now 7-year-old son used to do when he was 2, the cognitive capabilities that he had and the multiple cognitive capabilities that he had at the age of 2 would have, in order to run those on a supercomputer, you need a supercomputer the size of the city of Washington, D.C., with a power source the size of Washington, D.C. for a 2-year-old. I think we underestimated. This is one of the huge challenges for leaders in the future in the face of all of these algorithmic tools. We underrate the value of human beings, and we underrate the value of human leadership. And I am a partisan. I'm a fan of man. I'm a partisan for human.
No, I think that's great. And it really is like, who knows? I can't predict the future. And we do know that computing power, has grown exponentially, over the last few decades. So maybe it's possible. I don't know. I'm not a technical expert in that field. But like you said, certainly we're not there. I don't think we're there. Like we're close to there. And I think most who work, on AI and deep machine learning would say the same thing. Like, no, like if we're talking about getting to the point of like being at a toddler, range of mental capacity, like the human brain is just amazing, right? And
it is absolutely astonishing.
It's astonishing. So we're just not there. And maybe at some point we get there, but we're just not even close to there. Now that's not to say that AI isn't helpful. Like it can be super helpful with a lot of tasks and all sorts of things. But if we're trying to develop ourselves as leaders, focusing in on the humanity of something that's innately human, leadership, interacting with people, driving outcomes and success through and with people around us, there's only so much AI can do. AI summarizes really well. It can summarize stuff. It can give you, there's lots of things that it can help with, but ultimately, I think there's no substitute for like the deep leadership development that only occurs through continual dialogue, feedback, self-reflection, the deep work that all of us need to do on an individual basis that you're never going to get to just by like having a chat with a AI chatbot, right?
Well, and you're also not going, well, let me be very clear. While I am a partisan and I am a fan of man, I'm a fan of human beings, I believe that the human work of leadership is the best work that we can do in our organizations, our cultures, our families, our societies. I also believe that intentional work is what will save our families, our societies, our workplaces, our cultures. I firmly believe that. I've staked my entire career on it. I also believe concomitantly, which means at the same time, so I can hold two truths in my head at the same time. I also believe that the fatal flaw of human beings is that we will outsource too much to the algorithm. And we have even seen this happen in social media. So we now have 15, almost 20 years of data on what happens when we outsource our emotional responses to data to an algorithm that's designed to create feedback loops that continue to keep us angry and disconnected. Jonathan Haidt has done interesting work on this, and others. He's the most popular. But there's clear evidence of what happens when we do outsource these emotions to our technological machines. And so my concern fundamentally is that we will outsource, we will anthropomorphize these large language algorithms, and we will give them humanity that they do not have. And that will create massive problems for us if social media is to be any indicator of what may come in the future.
Yeah, I think so. I appreciate the analogy, and drawing parallels to social media. And, when we think about disruptive technologies that have shaped society, we have like the internet generally, we have the rise of social media. Now we have the rise of AI. There's lots of other things we could talk about too, but I mean, those are pretty significant, and they've shifted the way we do work. They've shifted the way we interact with each other. And we can see, like you say, like with social media in particular, there's a lot of, it was the wild, wild west, and kind of anything went for a long time. And there's a lot of negative outcomes because of it. And it
Right.
seems like only over the last few years, like have people really started to really pay attention to that, and that we still don't have a full grasp around it. Like we still don't really know what to do with it, but at least there's a
Right.
little bit higher level of awareness around it. So that's something. And I do appreciate when I see, the conversations around ethical AI, etc. Like people are trying to learn a lesson from
Right.
like what we didn't do well with social media, but yet we still are repeating a lot of the same types of mistakes. And so we have to be very careful. I like your point about outsourcing our humanity, outsourcing and delegating. There's so many like little mundane, routinized tasks that we all have to do every day that if we can have technology help us with, fantastic. That's been how it's always been, since the dawn of the Industrial Revolution, even before, like throughout all of human history. We
Right.
come up with ways to do things more effectively and efficiently and easier, and that will always be the case. So we're not arguing against something like that, but and using technology to help us do our work better is wonderful, but we have to be very careful about outsourcing our decision making to AI,
The same.
outsourcing our creativity to AI, and those sorts of things. And leadership is a fundamentally human project.
Right.
And so if there are aspects of what you do as a leader where you can be more effective and efficient through the use of technology and AI, wonderful. But you can't outsource. Like I can envision a leader, and I'm sure there are leaders today that are doing this, where they're faced with an ethical challenge. They're not sure what to do. They go into a chat bot and they're like, here's the situation. What do you suggest? And what are the reasons why? And then they get an output and they're like, oh, that makes sense. And then they make a decision. I'm sure that's happening.
Oh, yeah.
And that's super troubling, isn't it?
Yes, it's super troubling because they went to a chat bot rather than going to the Stoics. They went to a chat bot rather than going to let's say it's a CEO, rather than going to your senior vice presidents and your vice presidents and actually asking them to solve the problem, right? It's not the crowdsourcing that's the problem. Human beings have been crowdsourcing and working collaboratively. Good Lord. I mean, that's what's made us the top mammal on the planet, is the ability to crowdsource and collaborate, right? And communicate that effectively. Where we are crowdsourcing that from, though, is the huge question. And to your point earlier about biases, what lives behind the machine? So one of the interesting things about large language algorithms is there's no brain in there. Like, I hate to inform everybody, there's no mind in there. But there is a mind behind there, and the mind behind there has its own biases, its own focus, its own viewpoints. We've seen this with and everybody I think can agree on my description of this here, the if not semi-disastrous, almost fully disastrous rollout of Google Gemini, a few weeks ago, as of this recording. And if you're hearing this later, you can go Google that and see how well that went. But that is just one example. And then you talked about ethical AI, or ethics around AI. Who informs those ethics? Who are the people that are sitting around the table, right? Currently on the podcast, our current episode that we currently have up, and you can go back and listen to it if you're interested. We're reading a book called City of God by St. Augustine of Hippo. Ancient book written back in like the 4th century, right? And Augustine is proposing the same things about the human condition, yes, in a Christian context, but the same things about a human condition philosophically to the Romans that we are posing right now, 1800, 1700 years later. It's almost as if nothing's changed. And so what are the people who are sitting at the table? Who are the people who are sitting at the table? What perspectives do they bring? Can we critique or question with a clear conscience their ideas? Can we have those battles of ideas? This is the friction, and this is part of one of my major concerns with social media and the internet, was that it removed friction from people's lives. And in removing friction from people's lives, people begin to have the expectation, first in mass and then as individuals, that things will just be easier. But what does easier mean? So I'm a partisan in believing that leadership should be hard. It should be difficult. There should be friction. If you're that CEO and you don't know what the ethical decision is, it should be hard for you to get 5 people together to sit around a table to actually hash it out. And it should take you like 2 days because it's an important decision. Important decisions take time. They should be done slowly and not quickly. But if the motive behind your decision is a motive of speed to market, well, now we've got something else. Now we're into another place entirely.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, I think this has been really great thus far. Let's, as we spend our last maybe 5 minutes or so together today, let's talk about how all this connects with and applies to leaders who are seeking ongoing personal development themselves, but also as they're building their bench strength, they're trying to develop the people around them. And what's the leader's role in maximizing the human capital of their team, in their organization, in society at large, and how does that connect back to these kind of philosophical conversations around the use of technology, AI, and leaning into the humanity of leadership?
Well, first off, I believe that leaders should, that's a great question. First off, leaders should lean into and should fully embrace their own self-awareness. You have to know what you don't know, and you have to be comfortable knowing what you don't know. And you have to be aware that you have your blind spots and your biases. So those are 2 big things right off the bat. Start with that. Leaders should be constantly learning. Can you learn from a large language algorithm? Absolutely, for sure. But I'd recommend you go crack a book first. We got libraries on every street corner in America. We got bookstores, well, not on every street corner, but almost every street corner. And of course, in a pinch, you can go to that big book selling thing that Jeff Bezos built. And you know the name of it. There are hundreds of volumes that will help you get to where you need to go. Look in non-obvious places for solutions to your problems. That's tip number 3. Finally, how do you develop your bench strength? How do you develop the people around you? Well, there's a lot of different ways to do this, but one of the biggest ones is, and this is going to be a little bit controversial here, give them responsibility and accountability for everything in their sphere of influence and support them in both succeeding and failing in their sphere of influence. And by the way, take credit for their failures. Yes, I said that correctly. Take credit for their failures and allow them to own their successes. And if you do that, now you are creating a counterintuitive organization with counterintuitive bench strengths. And now all these, the leader and members and the bench is growing in a wonderful feedback loop that's optimal. Will this happen over a course of time very, very quickly? No. Remember, this is a long tail process. This is going to take some time. But what else would you rather be committed to for the rest of your leadership life?
Well, yeah, and that's the work of leadership. And so consistently showing up for yourself, self-care and self-development, but for your team, and developing your bench and developing the capacities and the capabilities of your people. That's what good leaders do. You get stuff done, but you get stuff done with your people.
Right.
You don't, at least not in a sustainable way, you don't get stuff done by stepping on people, by exploiting people. You might in the short term accomplish gains that make you look good, but it's not sustainable, and you will not have long-term sustainable success if that's your approach. So you have to focus on developing your team, creating an environment of continuous learning where people are encouraged to experiment, to quote unquote fail, which isn't actually failure as long as you're learning, and iterating. And if you can create that environment, does it take effort? Does it take time? Yes. Can you be more like speedy and efficient when you start to outsource some of those like daily consistent pieces? Of course you can, like in the short term. In the long term, I think you're way less effective and efficient and productive because all these other problems emerge because you're not paying attention to what needs to be paid attention to.
For every problem you solve quickly, 12 other problems will arise. That's usually the ratio
Yeah,
that you need to solve
absolutely.
slowly. And so, again, this idea of speed, along with the idea of a lack of friction, is one of these ideas that's been brought to us by our technological prowess. But our technological prowess is no substitute for emotional prowess. And that is the thing that that many of us are confusing and are substituting, which gets back to my thought of, I am concerned about the anthropomorphization of our data and of our algorithms, because it's just so easy for us to slip into that slipstream. So part of being a leader in the future with these algorithms, with this machine learning, is going to be being disciplined in understanding exactly what it is that are the things that humans need to do where there needs to be friction, and exactly where the things are where there does not need to be friction, and being able to separate those two effectively.
Yeah, well said. Well, hey, Son, this has just been a great conversation. I know at the time I need to let you go here in just a minute, but before we wrap things up, I wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, your team, and then give us the final word on the topic for today.
Absolutely. First off, I want to thank you very much for inviting me on the HCI podcast. John, you're doing great work. I want you to keep it up, keep going. This is a fabulous opportunity. And again, I want to thank you for it. If folks want to get a hold of me, they can always check us out at leadershiptoolbox.us. That's our website. That is the core product of HSCT Publishing. Our Leadership Toolbox features 12 modules, which go through the 12 areas we believe that every leader should know something about in order to be more intentionally effective and to apply leadership practices intentionally. So you can check that out at leadershiptoolbox.us. Please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. You can search my name, Jesan Sorrells. You can always send me a direct message there. You'll, of course, find my email contact there. You can always reach out to me about anything you've heard me say today on this podcast. And finally, I would encourage you to listen to our podcast, The Leadership Lessons from the Great Books podcast, because reading great literature is better than reading and trying to understand yet another business book, even the business book I wrote. So go ahead and check that out on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube Studio, no longer Google Podcasts. That's that's defunct. And iHeartRadio and Pandora and everywhere where you pick up podcasts as well. So go ahead and check that out and leave a 5-star review if you like it.
Wonderful. Jesan, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, get connected, find out more about what Jesan can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe. They can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and please join us again soon.